I was never meant to be seen. At least, that's how it felt growing up in the rotting corners of East Willow, a place that was less of a town and more of a forgotten shadow. My name is Elijah Monroe, and I was the poor kid who smelled like secondhand books and borrowed shampoo. My shoes squeaked from loose soles, and my lunchbox echoed with emptiness. The other kids knew it. Their parents knew it. And the world made sure I knew it too. Every morning, I walked past Hartley's Cafe. It wasn't just a coffee shop. It was the unofficial social hub of our town. Teens gathered there after school, influencers took photos under the vintage neon sign, and people like me, we just passed by. Invisible. At school, things weren't better. I sat at the edge of the cafeteria, chewing stale bread while the others devoured sushi boxes and posted Snapchats. There was one girl, though, Marissa, the only person who smiled at me once in sophomore year. A smile that made me believe I could belong, until I heard her whisper to her friends, "He looks like he bathes in sadness." They laughed so hard one of them choked on her kombucha. The boys were no better. Jordan, captain of the football team, once threw my notebook in the toilet just because I outscored him in math. "Let's see if your dreams can swim, loser," he said. I didn't fight back. I never did. I just took it all. The humiliation, the pity, the smirks. Until something inside me cracked the day I came home and found an eviction notice nailed to our apartment door. My mom cried on the hallway floor, rocking back and forth. She had worked 3 jobs just to keep us afloat. That's when I made a vow. Not a wish, not a hope, a vow. I will never be poor again. And when I return, they'll remember every laugh, every insult. I won't need revenge. My existence will be it. But to get there, I had to disappear first. And disappear I did. I left East Willow 2 weeks after the eviction. No goodbye parties, no hugs, not even a "we'll miss you." Just a duffel bag with 2 shirts, a cracked phone, and a mind on fire. New York didn't welcome me. It spit me out and dared me to come back. I slept in shelters, on park benches, in subway stations where announcements became my lullabies. I applied to dozens of jobs. Most didn't respond. Some laughed when they saw me in person. One hiring manager said, "You'd scare the customers." So I started with what no one could reject: trash. Literally. I got a night shift cleaning office buildings. Minimum wage, no benefits, zero dignity. But that paycheck, $211.47, was the first piece of proof that I could build something. And I did. Every night I cleaned. Every morning I read. Coding tutorials, finance blogs, business forums. I learned from YouTube and Reddit threads. I watched the stock market like it was a religion. I traded in the dark, not stocks at first, but used electronics, refurbished phones, then freelance data gigs. I barely slept. Hunger became my fuel. By 23, I had a skill set. By 25, I had my first breakthrough. A coding client from Singapore offered me equity in his AI startup instead of cash. Everyone told me it was stupid, but I had nothing, so risking nothing was easy. 18 months later, the startup exploded. IPO day was surreal. My inbox overflowed with congrats and LinkedIn requests from people who'd ghosted me before. I went from Elijah the Ghost to Elijah the Golden Touch. I moved into a penthouse overlooking Central Park. Sleek, quiet, unreachable. I wore tailored suits not because I needed to, but because I remembered how it felt to be laughed at for wearing hand-me-downs. But even then, I didn't feel done. The fire inside hadn't gone out. It had just evolved. Because I wasn't rich for the sake of wealth. I was rich to return. I was going to visit East Willow, not as the boy they spat on, but as the man they'd beg for a second chance with. The first time I drove back into East Willow, it was in a midnight black Aston Martin DB11. I kept the windows tinted, music low, and heart even lower. Everything looked the same. Same rusty swings at the park, same crooked street signs, same fake smiles on faded storefronts pretending nothing ever died here. Except now, everyone noticed me. Hartley's Cafe had expanded, barely, but it still had the same squeaky door. I walked in wearing an outfit worth more than the cafe's monthly rent. Conversations paused. Heads turned. It was like someone had turned up the gravity in the room. "Can I help you?" asked a teenage barista, the son of Mr. Hartley. "Probably." I smiled. "Just a black coffee. For now." I sat in the same corner I used to walk past, the one where the popular kids used to point at me from the window and laugh. That day, a group of them were there again. Older now. Familiar faces. They stared. Whispers echoed. Jordan, the ex-football god turned receding hairline realtor, squinted like he'd seen a ghost. Elijah? He finally asked, approaching. I sipped my coffee slowly. Jordan. He chuckled nervously. Man, it's been what? 10 years. You look different. No toilet water on my notebooks these days. His face paled. Hey, we were kids. Just jokes, you know. Sure, I said. Just like the time you spit in my lunch. He laughed, but it died quickly. Well, people grow up. They do. Word spread fast. By that evening, my inbox was flooded. Marissa DM'd me on Instagram. Hey stranger eyes, can't believe how far you've come. Want to catch up? I left her on read. Another message came from my old math teacher, Mr. Braith, the one who used to say I'd be lucky to flip burgers. He asked if I'd be willing to speak at the school's career day. I responded with a voice note. Only if I can tell them what you told me and how wrong you were. He left me on read. They were all interested now, all curious, all suddenly supportive. But none of them were there when I needed even a flicker of kindness. So I did what I came to do. I bought property. A lot of it. I purchased half of Main Street under a shell company. The same buildings they once bragged about owning. One by one, I turned their dreams into rental contracts. And I made sure every single one of them knew. I was the landlord of their lives now. Owning half of East Willow didn't just make me rich in numbers, it gave me power. Real power. The kind you don't shout about. You just flex quietly, like a loaded gun resting on a velvet table. Jordan's father had once refused my mom a job, saying, we don't hire people who smell like debt. Now, his auto shop lease was under my name. I raised the rent by 18% and offered a silent smile when he came to negotiate. Mr. Monroe, he said, twisting his wedding ring nervously. We've been a part of this community for over 30 years. That increase, it'll crush us. I leaned back in the leather chair. My mother worked 3 jobs and was still crushed. Funny how the world works, huh? He left without shaking my hand. Then there was the town council. They used to talk over me when I once tried to advocate for free tutoring sessions at the library. Now they invited me to speak at every event, to donate, to be the face of East Willow's new future. I declined every invitation. Instead, I bought the old theater they'd shut down and reopened it as Monroe Hall, a hub for underprivileged kids to get free classes in coding, media, and entrepreneurship. No speeches, no plaques, just opportunity. One afternoon, as I walked through the new center, I saw a boy sitting in the corner, staring at a cracked screen. Need a new laptop? I asked. He nodded shyly. I handed him mine. Brand new MacBook. No hesitation. His eyes widened. Why would you give me this? I crouched beside him. Because someone should have done it for me. That night, Marissa showed up at the launch gala. She wore a glittering dress, her hair in soft waves, with that same sly smile I remembered. Only now it reeked of desperation. Elijah, her voice was softer now. I meant what I said in my message. I was young and stupid, but you always stood out. You were different. I didn't blink. You were right. I am different. She stepped closer. You don't have to be cruel. I looked her straight in the eye. Neither did you. But you were. Every day. Her lips parted to speak, but I turned away. Because now, the roles had reversed. I was no longer the shadow. I was the spotlight. And they couldn't stand the heat. The irony? The more I rejected them, the more they wanted me. Jordan invited me to his wedding, front row, VIP, black tie. I RSVP'd. Only if the ceremony includes an apology. He uninvited me 2 hours later. Marissa tried again too, this time at a charity dinner I sponsored anonymously. She cornered me near the bar, tipsy, skin glowing under the dim lights. You still hate me, she whispered. I tilted my glass. I don't hate you. I just don't remember you. That stung. I saw it in her eyes. You're not the same boy, she said. No, I replied. That boy died in your laughter. Her smile crumbled. But here's the thing nobody warns you about when you finally win. You don't feel victorious. Not really. You feel hollow. Like you dug a tunnel through pain, only to end up standing alone at the other side with no one to tell. I started going through the town at night, sitting in my car with the engine off, just watching. Watching the same streets that once swallowed me whole. Once, I saw Mrs. Bell, my former landlord, walking her dog. She used to bang on our door every time rent was late, yelling loud enough for neighbors to hear. Now, she lived in one of my units. I lowered my window. Evening, Mrs. Bell. She froze, squinting. Do I know you? Elijah Monroe. Apartment 3B. Back when you used to scream at my mother for being 3 days late. Her jaw slackened. Oh, she said. You've grown up. Some of us had to. Silence. She gave a nervous chuckle. I always knew you'd turn out special. I stared at her. No, you didn't. But it's okay. You'll say it enough times now to believe it. Then I drove off. Every interaction was like this. Ghosts trying on smiles, pretending they'd always cared. I kept receipts. Literal ones. I had a drawer full of old report cards, detention slips, rejection letters, notes that said "No" in red marker. Now I framed them on my office wall, not out of spite, but remembrance. Because the only thing more powerful than revenge is survival. And surviving so loudly they have no choice but to hear it. Months passed. The town bent around my name like gravity. People whispered Mr. Monroe with reverence and fear, but never with affection. I was East Willow's success story and its cautionary tale. I funded a library expansion, built a tech center, and reopened the derelict youth hostel. But no matter how much I gave back, it always felt like I was giving down. Not up, not across. One day, I walked past the high school. The same building where I used to hide in the bathroom to avoid being called Poverty Boy. A teacher I didn't recognize waved me over. Elijah, right? She asked. Would you mind coming in and speaking to the seniors? Just a quick talk? You're an inspiration. I hesitated. That word again. Inside the classroom, the students looked up with the same mix of awe and skepticism I once carried. I began. I was told I'd never be more than a janitor. That I looked poor, thought poor, and dreamed too big. I believed them for a while. Until I didn't. They were silent. Hooked. But here's what no one tells you. Success doesn't heal everything. Sometimes, it just puts gold over your scars. Looks shiny from a distance, but it still hurts when you touch it. One kid raised his hand. So are you happy now? I paused. Maybe too long. Some days, I admitted. Other days, I wonder if I lost too much chasing what I thought I needed. When I left, the teacher handed me a thank you card. The cover read, "You showed us it's possible." That night, I went home and sat on the floor. No lights, no music, no phone. Just silence. Because here's the truth. Revenge might taste sweet, but it doesn't fill you. And the more people begged for a place in my life again, the more I realized I didn't have room. Not for them. Not for fake apologies. And maybe not even for peace yet. I could have had anyone now. Women who used to walk past me like fog now leaned in too close, laughed too loud, dressed too perfectly. But none of it felt real. It was all performance. Worship. Transaction. One evening at a private gala in the city, I met her, Naomi. She wasn't from East Willow. She hadn't known Broke Elijah or Revenge Elijah. She only knew the man in front of her, sipping whiskey alone in a room full of millionaires. She didn't ask what I did. She asked, "What makes you happy?" That question shook me. We started seeing each other. Dinners, late-night talks, stolen weekends in upstate cabins. Naomi wasn't impressed by wealth. She was curious about pain. And I had more than enough of that. You ever forgive them? She asked once, her head resting on my shoulder. No, I said honestly. I just made sure they remembered me. But what if you're remembering them more than they remember you now? That thought haunted me. She asked to visit East Willow with me. I agreed, reluctantly. We walked its streets together, her hand in mine. At Hartley's Cafe, they greeted me like royalty. Naomi noticed my discomfort. This place still has a hold on you, she whispered. I built an empire to crush it, I replied. She smiled. But you're still standing on its ashes. A week later, she left me. Not because I was cruel, but because I was unfinished. Stuck in a feedback loop of ghosts and grudges. She left a note that said, I love the man you are, but I can't compete with the boy you're still trying to save. That broke me more than poverty ever did. Because in my quest to conquer the world that mocked me, I had forgotten to let someone in. Naomi's absence was louder than any crowd I'd silenced. For the first time in years, I felt small again. Not because I was powerless, but because I finally realized I'd built everything around my pain, never beyond it. I walked through East Willow the next morning with no plan, no entourage, no tinted windows. Just me. The air felt heavier, or maybe I did. I passed the old apartment building we were evicted from. It had new paint now, fresh windows, even a digital intercom. I had bought it 2 years ago and renamed it Monroe Gardens, a cruel joke, in hindsight. Inside, I found the current manager, a woman in her 50s with warm eyes and silver curls. She offered me tea without recognizing who I was. We talked about the building, the tenants, the kids who sometimes missed rent, how she covered for them when she could. You ever been homeless? I asked quietly. She nodded. Twice. I left her a blank check. Whatever they need, make it happen. Then I walked away. I didn't need a thank you. That wasn't the point anymore. I started selling off properties. Not all, just the ones that felt like trophies. I converted the theater into a nonprofit incubator. I started investing in anonymous scholarships. I returned to Naomi's favorite cabin once. Alone, I sat on the porch with a journal and wrote one sentence. You won, Elijah. Now set yourself free. That night, I burned the journal. Every page, every list of names, every record of insult, debt, pain. I watched the fire rise, not with anger, but relief. I had spent so long demanding they remember me, that I had forgotten the power of forgetting them. The next morning, I felt lighter, not because the town forgave me or the people I'd hurt changed, but because I forgave myself. I walked into the school library to find the same group of kids from before. This time, I didn't speak about my revenge or success. Instead, I told them the truth. Life will knock you down. Some days, it'll feel like the world is set against you. I know because I lived it. But there's one thing I learned. Revenge is a hollow victory. True power comes from rising anyway. From building, not breaking. From forgiving, not forgetting, but forgiving. One of the students raised her hand. How do you forgive someone who never said sorry? I smiled softly. You don't wait for them. You do it for yourself. It's how you free your heart. Later, the principal pulled me aside. You've changed this place, Elijah. I nodded. No, they did. I just reminded them. The boy I gave the laptop to last year came up and hugged me. Thanks, Mr. Monroe. You showed me it's possible. In that moment, I understood. It was never about making them pay. It was about making myself whole. About proving that a poor boy from East Willow could become more than a shadow. And in doing so, I became something I never expected. Free. Years later, East Willow still whispers my name, but now with a different tone. Respect. Wonder. A little fear, maybe. I no longer crave their attention. I don't check my phone for messages from those who once ignored me. I don't attend their events. I live quietly, purposefully. I'm a man who learned the hard way that wealth is a tool, not a trophy. That revenge can poison the soul if you let it. When I walk through East Willow now, I see faces of children, some hungry, some scared, some hopeful. I see a chance to rewrite a story that once felt written in stone. One day, I met an old woman at the park bench where I used to sit alone. She smiled kindly and said, "You've changed the town." I nodded. "No, the town changed me." She laughed softly. "And now you're the man we all want to be." I looked away and whispered, "I'm just the man I had to become to find peace." Because at the end of it all, it wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving myself right. That even a poor boy, forgotten and broken, can rise. Not just to be seen, but to become. And walk away, finally free.